Welcome to the podcast called The Battle for African Agriculture, where we use the lens of political economy to explore the ecological, cultural, economical struggles that African farmers are having with the current agricultural system. My name is Belay. I'm your host. I'm the General Coordinator of the Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa. Please, those of you who are following this podcast, please press the subscribe button. You will help us to reach as many guests as possible. Today, I'm so much happy to welcome our guest. His name is Dr. David Kabanda. Dr. David Kabanda is a lawyer, a policy advocate, and a food system activist from Uganda. Dr. Kabanda is an executive director of Safe Road Uganda and has been deeply engaged in advancing agroecology, food sovereignty, environmental justice, and farmers' rights within Uganda and across East Africa region. He has also played an important role in pushing conversations around agroecology bill within the East African Legislative Assembly, EALA process. His work sits in the intersection of law, policy, governance, ecology, and social justice, particularly at a time when African food systems are facing growing pressure from the climate change, corporate concentration, land pressure, trade dynamics in industrial agriculture. David, welcome to the Battle for African Agriculture.
Thank you so much, Dr. Million. I'm so honored to be here at the podcast.
David, I remember when we met. I think I remember we met in Zimbabwe.
Yes.
And it was a big gathering, and we identified certain issues, in a participatory way.
Yes.
One of the issues that we identified was using art for agroecology and the importance of law for
Yes.
agroecology. And I remember sitting with you in this small group.
Yes.
And I was very, very much impressed, actually. And I discussed this with other people later on. That, you say that you people, you're talking about agroecology, the practice of agroecology, food sovereignty, but nobody speaks about law and regulations.
Yeah.
And these things are very much important. And
Yes.
and you made me think twice, So my question is, how did you get here? What's your journey? I would like to begin with your journey, what has happened, your interest in food systems and agroecology and justice. Where did it come from?
Thank you so much. I'm even laughing because when I did my first degree in law, then I did my master's and I majored in the right to health. And in right to health, after I did a lot of work pushing for health rights, because many people do not even believe that health is a legal right. So I took on government on the issues of the many women who are dying needlessly in hospitals. So I did a lot of work, environmental justice, but the doctors put me aside because I was suing them seriously of medical negligence, of right to health, of medical supplies. And then they put me aside and said, Kabanda, what is killing many women is food. I had studied it as an underlying determinant of the right to health, but I had not given it a lot of time. And then the doctors told me that at least in Uganda, by then, 39% of the women were dying because they were anemic. And then they told me giving birth should be a natural phenomenon. But when a woman is anemic because they didn't take care of their nutrition, by the time they come to the hospital, they are too weak. Sometimes we cannot do much. Then it crossed my mind. I started investigating, I started doing research, and then I went back to school to do a PhD in food law. So in that journey of 5 years, I discovered a lot of things. Some of the the researches that I did, I was like doing a nutrition course, and I
mm,
picked a lot of interest. And then I went into trade agreements, understanding how big companies are misinforming people, understanding how food is a cause of death, something that is
mhm,
supposed to be a cause of joy. It is a
mm,
social phenomenon. Eventually, it is turning out to be death. So we started this organization, the Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights, to join you, Dr. Million, and many other people in the struggle. But now our niche is low, because now
mm,
we felt like, no, we need to beyond just telling people about the misinformation, about
mm,
the actual the issues around food. Then accountability, governance, justice must also find the way on table, such that we have a
mm.
compounded approach. Yes.
That's lovely. Um, Before we go to the other questions also, I think one of the issues that we raised that time we discussed is the role of art in
Yes.
mobilizing people.
Yeah.
How art touches people's heart, much more than hours of talk or discussion or convention. So, can you say something about art?
Yeah, and interestingly or sadly, many people do
Mm,
not see the cardinal role of art. And
mm,
some people even ask us, you a lawyer, how come you
mm,
are advocating for food? Food? So they don't see that
mm,
it a lawyer can be part of the
mm,
advocacy movement. Now,
mm,
the moment we talk about art, many people will run maybe to theater, which is also very important, is part of art.
mhm,
Um, but beyond that, we are looking at a broader spectrum of how do we use the social phenomenon
mm,
to people in a way that is very easy to understand. That is number one.
mm,
But also using structures and systems that are near to them. So art
yeah.
is one of those things, and I will want to implore you, Doctor, that our conversation in Harare should be taken forward to see that we organize the theatricals, we organize the singing, we organize the drama, we organize
Mm, mm, mm,
the digital spaces, we
mm,
organize the social media, our traditional media, and then
yeah.
we these issues, because many people are dying and they do not understand. Some of the policymakers just don't have this information. Yet,
Mm,
if we put it in art, many of them will, this message will
yeah.
be to understand,
Easily,
because
yeah.
many people do not understand that the issue of food and agriculture is also too scientific based, and in
Mm,
it a lot is hidden. So art will
mm,
unpack it, and then before you know it, you have a plethora of information, and many
mm.
people are picking the information.
I'm,
Yes.
I'm, I'm, I'm totally in agreement with you, and I'm dreaming of starting something around this agenda. And obviously, I'll come back to you, David.
Yes, thank you.
Um, let's talk about the why food system is political. Many people see agriculture as food production only, but
Yeah.
increasingly food systems are becoming political, economic, environmental, and even geopolitical questions. From
Mm.
your perspective, why should Africans pay closer attention to who controls the food system?
Today, as we have this conversation, Doctor, it
Mm,
is sad sometimes when I think about it. Africa has a population of approximately 1.6 billion people, but
mhm,
of those 1.6 billion people, 300 people are malnourished. It is sad.
mm, mm,
And
mm,
of those, almost a billion people experience either moderate or severe food insecurity. And now
mm,
we are waking up to a very sad realization of the many increasing cancers and other non-communicable diseases. And many of
mm,
these can be traced back to food. So it is important that everyone at individual level, at household
mm,
level, at community level, at local government level, through to Africa Union,
mm,
we put on the lenses that unpack food and understand its deep meaning. Now,
mm,
many people do not see the food on their plate as a summation of a system. And
mm,
many of them don't care or don't think about it deeply. But this is the thing. Today, if you had maybe a plate of rice, I
mm,
know if you've had either breakfast or lunch, understand this that there are too many chains that worked up to the time you saw
yeah.
food on your plate.
Mm,
And the price that you paid for that little food that you've eaten today is determined by many people that you don't see, that you don't
mm,
know, or you'll never even know.
mm,
And yet, the many people, corporations, or individuals who determine that, or who even determine whether that food will come to your plate, because that's where how deep it is. Beyond the
mm,
price that you have paid, dear fair African,
mm,
in forget even the price, but there is also aspect of access. There is a
mm,
possibility that tomorrow you may not access that food, or tomorrow
mm,
you may find that it's extremely difficult to get it. Why?
mm,
Because the food system has now big players or has now many players who control whether it is available or it is not available. Or if
mm,
it is available, at how much will you get it? Or
mm,
if it is available, how difficult will it be that you get it?
mm,
So everyone needs to now wake up to why food systems is a very important aspect in our lives, because in what many food players, food industry does, we have woken up to a very sad realization that many of us are becoming slaves. The farmers
mm,
are becoming slaves. The middlemen are also becoming slaves. The consumers are also becoming slaves to a few corporations, to a few companies, to a few people.
mm,
But although you see too many people are involved in the value chain, but who holds the key is sitting somewhere and they
mm,
don't care. They came up with the seed, they came up with
mm.
something, and they control it magically
Yeah.
without knowing. So everyone now needs to consider and be very careful, because many people are sick because of this food system that is not efficient, that is not appropriate, that is not pro people.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Let's talk, before we come to law, let's talk about agroecology and the agroecology, the debate around agroecology. Agroecology is getting global attention, as you know, and there is still resistance to it in many policy spaces. You remember when we had a discussion around EALA, and the question is, can we feed the people with this agroecology? No? Legitimate questions. But why do you think agroecology remains contested, despite growing evidence around biodiversity, resilience, nutrition, and climate adaptation?
Okay, it is contested because of like four reasons. The
Yeah.
one,
Mm,
and I wouldn't have started with it, but it is for me, it is
mhm,
the most profound one: ignorance.
mhm,
Many policymakers and us as ordinary people, Africans, are yet to understand agroecology, yet we live with it. This is what we practice most of the
mm,
time. But many leaders are yet to understand what this aspect is. Yes, there is a growing global consensus, but we really need to work towards having deeper knowledge and understanding. Number two, we have big players, and when I say big players, I don't want so much to say food industry, what, but big players who saw advantage in the food and the agri-food system as a business. And what they, particularly in Africa, they came with misinformation. And they came with very big narratives telling people that monocultures are the way to go. If you do practice regenerative agriculture, then maybe that is backward and what. And because they have money and they can use radio, they can use mass media. So before you know it, there is a very huge wrong information, and it is intentional. So our leaders and the ordinary person will quickly jump to you when you say agroecology. No, 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 that doesn't work. But they don't know that at the back of their mind, someone has planted wrong information. Then, number three, why I think it is sometimes resisted, again, it is linked to number two, but many of our leaders have not yet given us maybe certification of agroecology products, and some of them ask us, where's the market for agroecology products? I don't. So again, it comes back to linked to number two. But number four, I think it is capitalism, because capitalism fears something that is circulated amongst people. Capitalism thrives on monopolies, on owning things as individual companies. It thrives on formalism, making sure that everything is super structured, such that you can push off many people to come in. So many people who are resisting agroecology are those that are interested in abnormal profits that they enjoy in industrial agriculture.
Yeah, that's a very good analysis.
Yeah.
Dr. David, I call you David or Kabanda? Like the name Kabanda. What does it mean,
Kabanda,
by the way, Kabanda?
yes, Kabanda.
What
Kabanda
does it
is
mean?
it is a strong name from my clan. I come from the Uganda region,
Mhm.
and my clan is a Buffalo clan.
Oh,
So there
oh,
is in one of our ancestors, they could go hunt and then jump very big thorns. So it is
ah,
the short name, but the longer name is Kabanda Magwa Nenkanagaziwoka. It is a Luganda thing, meaning that
mm.
you can run through thorns, even the bigger thorns. So
Okay.
the name
So
that
you
was
can pass through difficulties,
exactly
challenges.
challenges, resilient.
What a beautiful name. What a beautiful name. Yeah.
Mm,
Um, so, Kabanda, let me ask you, in that meeting,
yeah,
in Harare,
yes,
you say that you people, you don't understand the value of law in
yeah,
agriculture. It's
mm,
very much important to understand it. It's very much important to engage with it.
yes.
Why is it important?
Law, in fact, if we could just pause a bit as Africans and we cause an understanding of this thing called law. And in agriculture, it is paramount because for a very long time, the food and agriculture sector has been sidelined when it comes to law and maybe
Mhm.
legal other protections. And
Mm.
I want to start by asking you, or even engaging the people who will be watching this podcast. And then each state, including African Union, is a creature of law.
Mm.
Everything starts grounded. If you want to have a storied building, determining the many levels you'll have, it is in the foundation. So law is a foundation of everything. In
Mhm.
agriculture, I was during my PhD research, no African country has an agriculture law.
Mhm.
Yet, if you go in Europe, USA, everywhere, they have agriculture laws. Meaning
Mm.
that in how we look at agriculture and food, because maybe in many parts of Africa, we came off from land that was very fertile. You just maybe throw a seed somewhere, or a bird drops a seed, and before you know it, you have food. So maybe we thought this is a natural phenomenon, it will happen anyway.
Mm.
But we forgot that even when the colonialists came, there is what they called cash crops. The
Mhm.
moment trade comes in, the moment money comes in, it would be a
Mm.
wake-up call for everyone to know that this must be a regulated space. So
Mm.
law in itself will first of all give any sector foundation. It is given
Mm.
a structure, a superstructure, or a structured way of doing things, and it also gives stability. If you are
Mm.
driving your car, just imagine with me, dear doctor, that as you drive your car, it keeps, swerving off the road. You'll
Mm.
never buy a car because you know anytime you'll die. But because
Yeah.
it is stable, or we always, people board planes, it is stable, it is taking off, it is in the sky now, it is now landing. So what happens in all that process are different laws, but these are physics laws. Now,
Mm.
why should we forget that in a big sector like agriculture, because it employs 70 and more percent of the population in Africa, why
Mm.
do we think as Africans that we must have a sector which brings in much more revenue, and it does not have a grounding as a foundation, it does not have a structure, and it does not have stability? So you'll wake up to Africa and someone tells you, we cannot know with even precision that this will be like this. And maybe lastly, law will give you accountability. Let me tell you, Dr. Million, today we are talking about Kampala Declaration. The other time it
Mhm.
was Malabo Declaration. No, the other time it was Maputo Declaration and Malabo Declaration. If you look at the biannual reviews, it is showing you that African countries are not fulfilling what they pledged. At African level, they meet and agree that let us allocate 10% of our revenue to agriculture
Mm.
and food sector. And they don't do it because nobody is going to hold them accountable. It is
Yeah.
not anywhere. If they have like international or regional commitments, for example, that one of allocating 10% of the money, we don't have an enabling legal framework at national level to hold them accountable. So
Yeah.
when I look at agriculture and particularly agroecology, I was so concerned that this is a very beautiful movement. I know Dr. Million and all colleagues in Africa and globally are investing a lot of time, a lot of research. But at the end of the day, if we do not have like legal grounding, and then have state because governments will go, but states don't.
Mm.
So for me, when you look at it, we need to have laws such that the leaders can be engaged, we can hold ourselves accountable, and the leaders can also be held accountable. So when you look at law, it also gives you the framework of governance. Right now, we are struggling throughout the continent. Each country you go to, there is a lot of struggle when it comes to food and agriculture governance. It is in Africa where many of us do not have, as countries, it is only, I think, 12 countries that have dietary, food-based dietary guidelines. But
Mm.
why? Many of us in Africa, you may find that we do not know, okay, if policymakers may know, but individuals like me may not understand the importance of biodiversity. Sometimes we don't
Yeah,
even
yeah, yeah.
have. So
Yeah,
if
no,
we
I agree. Yeah.
yes, if we have a law, then we can be sure there is stability, there is governance, but above all, accountability.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So, on that line, from a legal and governance perspective,
Yeah.
Dr. Kabanda, what are the biggest barriers preventing agroecology from moving from rhetoric into actual public policy and investment?
Yeah, many of the policy makers have been misled by the big food and agriculture industries. And when mention this, I mean the seed, the fertilizer, the what, they are misleading them to think
Mhm.
that agroecology is subsistence agriculture. And then
Yeah.
they are telling our leaders that, you know what, you need industrialization, you need
Mm.
monocultures, you need this, which is wrong. You cannot have sovereignty as a country and as Africa if we do not have sovereignty of food. If a
Yeah.
neighbor owns your food, owns your seed, owns your ecology, they will own you. We should even stop thinking about political sovereignty if we do not have food sovereignty. The African Charter requires African governments to desist and push away any ventures, any companies that have a likelihood of turning
Mm.
Africans into slaves or into work as substitutes. But what is happening
Yes.
in food and agriculture is now taking us that route. So when I look at why we are not transiting at a pace where we ought to be, is leaders are yet to get out of the lies that they have been fed of the Green Revolution
Mm.
and so
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, no, that's the power of narrative is very, very clear, you know.
Yes.
This is, I mean, most of the agricultural experts in Africa have come out of universities which are designed by colonialists basically,
Mhm.
and they studied Western agricultural system instead of their own agricultural system. So the narrative is Africa is poor, the land is poor, degraded, so it cannot produce without agrochemicals, without improved seeds, genetically modified seeds. We have to reorient our agriculture to market-based agriculture. Technology is a savior, all that. I totally agree with you. That's very, very difficult to consider something like agroecology, which builds sovereignty and resilience into the system. But let's come to something closer to home, the East African
Yeah.
Agroecology Bill. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I have to say to our podcast listeners that I know my hats off for your effort, as both as an organization and as an
Thank you.
individual
Yeah,
in
thank
really mobilizing the IALA.
you.
AFSA helped wherever it can help, but Safe has done quite a lot of work. We really recognize that.
Thank you.
Um, so what motivated the push for such a bill, and what larger transformations was it trying to achieve?
Okay, thank you so much. And I think I'll also start by thanking you, Dr. Million, because you
Mm.
have been very supportive of the campaign.
Yeah.
Now, and I also want to thank the members of the East African Legislative Assembly because they have opened the space for us to engage with them, to have dialogues, and also
Mhm.
the staff at the East African community. So we want to thank you so much. And the civil society organizations with whom we work with. So, Doctor, we looked at the movement in East Africa, agroecology movement. We
Mhm.
have too many issues when it comes to highly hazardous pesticides, of course, soil degradation. We have all these issues, and we have one of the beautiful tools, the East
Mhm.
African Community Treaty, the treaty that established the East African Community. It has
Mhm.
provisions that support agroecology, Article 110, and several other articles that support indigenous seeds. By the way, people don't know that in that treaty, the treaty talks about promotion of indigenous knowledge, of indigenous food, of indigenous nutrition
Mhm.
because that is who we are. So, and but number two, we looked at that law. That law, the East African Community Treaty, allows the IALA to come up with laws, acts,
Mhm.
from the IALA, and they have direct implementation. In fact, a law
Mhm.
that has been made at East African level. It's not just a framework law. The moment that law is signed at East African level, it has direct implementation at national level, and
Mhm.
all the 8 partner states will implement it directly. So some of the people have been coming back to us and they are asking, okay, we know this will be a framework law, but we'll need to come up with another law to operationalize it at national level. That's not the case. And for us
Mhm.
and the other CSOs, this is a low-hanging fruit because now
Mhm.
you have a law on agroecology that applies to all the 8 members and it will have direct implementation. It will be enforced directly. And the journey has been long. Where we are now, I see, I've started seeing the light. The members of parliament at that level opened up themselves to have these conversations. You remember, Doctor,
Mhm.
that you have also had these conversations with the IALA members. And where we
Yeah.
are now, we have members who have understood that we need to protect what is ours. We need to protect,
Mhm.
other countries. I need to challenge the listeners and the viewers. Do you know just a geographical area in France has a global market share of 7.7 billion because they protected what is indigenous to them. Doctor, many people enjoy champagne, but
Mhm.
champagne is a protected product from a particular geographical area in France. It is projected to go up to 10.7 billion in just a few years. So, as Africans, we also need to have laws that protect our sovereignty, our food sovereignty. If we have unique products, let not the global narrative be that because we do not the cocoyam, then that is an orphaned food. Because it is coming from Africa, it is
Yeah.
orphaned food. So
Yeah.
we,
Yeah.
yes,
No, I just
and
wanted to follow up the discussion.
yeah.
I wanted to come to you. What were the resistance, during these debates and the discussions? And what was the response?
The response,
It was not an easy road.
yes, yes.
So it's nothing easy, and it's expected.
I
They have to ask really
yeah,
relevant questions, and they are brilliant people. I've engaged with EALA parliamentarians, really, really
yeah.
great people. But what was the resistance?
Yeah, first of all, they in in these too many meetings we have had with them,
Mm,
the first meetings were chaotic. Some of the members never even wanted to listen to us
mm,
because it sounded like we are an anti-development process. We sounded as if we want to take people back to subsistence, and this is the resistance. They were like, no, 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 no,
mm,
no, you people. Do you want to take our people back to subsistence agriculture? Okay,
mm,
prove to us, can agroecology feed Africa? Okay, can you prove to us, can people make money out of agroecology? Okay,
mm,
to us, what are the economic calculations? So
mm,
you could clearly say, and these are very well studied people. Many of them
mm.
are economists, others are
Yeah.
environmentalists, others, and they were coming from a genuine, maybe, angle because they have
Mm,
been told that if you want to get from many Africans into the money economy, then you must go into synthetic fertilizers. You must very wrong narratives.
mm,
But
mm,
eventually, we were patient with them. But what I need to tell you and to thank them for is to continuously, accepting us, calling us, come back and explain. Come back and explain. What did you say last time? And maybe we need to also, one of the things that we saw as a push, some of them
mm,
were asking us, Kabanda, I remember one time they put me on spotlight. They told me, Kabanda, what we are dealing with are real issues. You can
mhm,
plant, for example, you planted cabbages, and then you wake up when the pests are finishing the cabbages.
mm,
Then maybe you have, and then they told me, we now have, is it the coffee borer? How do we deal with that? And
mm,
then others had planted hybrids, and then they wanted to use agroecology. And then I told them, that's where the problem is. The
mm,
person who came up with that seed has
mm,
specification of the synthetic, fertilizers, synthetic pesticides that you have to use. This is the slavery we are talking about.
mm,
They are holding you hostage. You just don't realize it. Even at
mm,
your level, as members, honorable members, and each one of you here represent a big population where you come from. So we started a very big conversation, and I took them through the treaty. And then my question to them was, why don't we have our homegrown industries? If we want
mm,
fertilizers, why don't we invest in biochemistry? You have engineers here of biochemistry. Why don't we engage into that? Why don't we invest into that? Why do we invest into only synthetics? And then
yeah.
eventually the resistance started reducing till when they even visited us here in Uganda as the entire parliament.
Yeah, I
So
remember, I was part of that visit, that excellent farmer,
yeah, yes,
Yeah. I mean, you see, they are individuals, the personal relationships are also very, very much important.
yes,
So when you sit with them, have lunch with them, and joke with them, and whatever, they just understand that what you are
mm,
proposing it's not a drive from outside, We're just
no,
speaking
no,
to each other
mm,
about an African problem and an African solution.
mm,
Finally, David, our time is running. Two questions. One question would be, what do you see the role of the other civil society groups? One thing that excites me now
mm,
is agroecology is becoming the norm.
yes,
Number of universities are teaching it. There are a number of research in Africa, even Kenya, Ethiopia, Tanzania have an agroecology strategy. It's on the table of the minister to sign it also here in Uganda. If when the policy comes out, when the bill
mm,
comes out, there's already the ground is somehow done.
mm,
So one question is, what do you expect from other actors? There are a number of actors in this movement. What do you expect from them? And the second question probably would be that endless challenge that we have. How do we bring in the new generation
oh,
into this?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Civil society need not to relax. We need
Mm,
now to have a new strategy of not dropping the beat. Even at individual level, we need now to have more coalescing such that we engage the decision makers because
mhm,
us as civil society will do the advocates and everything, but without having the decision makers on board, understanding
mhm,
this particular issue, we may not get so much. So all the strategies and tactics that we can use, doctor, to make sure that the decision makers are on board, because the industrial agriculture stakeholders and activists, what they did first was to also go to the decision makers, first of all, to lie to them, secondly, to include them in their business. So sometimes you go to decision
yeah.
makers who are also part of the business. So we need as civil society to continue working as one, making sure that every time we knock on the door of the decision makers, policy makers, but also the politicians,
Mm,
because politicians represent people. The political economy works better if we transit into agroecology. We'll get more
mm,
money. We'll get more people into adequate living if we engage agroecology. But we don't need to drop research. We need to continue having research.
mhm,
We need to continue having learning exchanges, but we also need to engage local governments. I'm so happy
mm.
what is happening in Kenya with country governments, and maybe this can be replicated in all, and also
Yeah.
Tanzania. They have the agroecology policy. So we need to have this as civil society. Now, going to the youth, Africa, when you look at the maiden age, 19.5. So we have too many young people. But we have not maybe a civil society, and we need to help them because many of them are running away from agriculture, thinking that it doesn't make sense, thinking that it is not
Mm,
stylish. But I've just mentioned to you, doctor, that a group of farmers in France who are supplying grapes to the people who are making champagne, can they say that agriculture is not making economic sense? It is just a matter of organizing ourselves and then making sure that the youth can start getting money. And we need now to work on certification such that our products, if it is agroecologically produced, it can fetch the premium market. We can have good health. And then if the youth see that when they engage in
mm.
agroecology, they have money in their pockets, I know that many of them will join, and many of them will not run away from agriculture and from agroecology.
Thank you very much. Finally, let's say that you are on a stage
Yeah.
at the African Union,
Mm,
and in front of you are policymakers, civil society, and ordinary citizens.
mm.
So, what will be your message, about the food system, the future of food system in Africa?
Okay. If I met them, I'll tell them that their children, because many of them have children, and this is what I
Mm,
want to speak to the entire globe and to Africa particularly, because I know, Dr. Million, you are a representation of Africa, smallholder farmers,
mm,
civil society. If we do not transit into agroecology, these following things are going to happen. We are going to see an increase in non-communicable diseases, particularly dietary-related cancers, and this is not a fearmonger. I'm not trying to intimidate people, but you all see that many African countries do not have laws that protect against, for example, highly hazardous pesticides. The pesticides have been banned elsewhere. They are all over here in our water, in our soil, in our atmosphere, on our fruit, on our vegetables. So our food is contaminated because the leaders have refused to give us enabling legal and policy frameworks. Number two, I'll tell them that many of the children you have will wake up with DNA damaged systems because this is what is happening with these pesticides and everything that we have not controlled. Number three, which African leader will be happy and proud if our heritage, including our biodiversity, is extinct? Because what is happening right now, our biodiversity is getting extinct. What are we going to dive on? And lastly, I'll tell them that the African Charter on Human and People's Rights requires them never to allow anything that holds Africans as hostage. So they shouldn't allow the concentration of power in industrial agriculture. All the livestock that we are eating now, the poultry we are eating now, is being controlled by a few 5 companies globally. Why do we allow that to happen? We are not against them doing business, but we also need to protect our sovereignty, our indigenous food, our Africanicity. Doctor, when I'm speaking about this, I feel like jumping through the chair, but this is not my intention. My intention is, dear Africans, at community level, it doesn't take to come as an Africa group, but it starts in your home, in your house. Start practicing eating from your community. Start practicing taking away these hazardous chemicals. If you don't understand a label, don't buy that chemical because what drives the new normal is profit maximization. It's not about
Thank
your
you.
health. This is why we have many people having cancers, many people having all sorts of non-communicable diseases because we have not taken care of our agriculture and the food sector. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you so much, David Kabanda, Dr. David Kabanda. Really, really exciting discussion. Thanks a lot. I hope we'll continue discussion in the future also in other podcast events. Thanks a lot. Huh?
You are welcome, Doctor. Thank you so much for having me.